Hello, good morning to all. Hi friends, today I am going to discuss about the scalp. This is a very small topic but gives lot of information. Specific objectives of the scalp. It includes list of scalp layers, occipitofrontalis muscle, blood supply, nerve supply of scalp, and dangerous layer of the scalp, and black eye. These are included in the applied aspects. The scalp extends anteriorly, supraorbital margin, posteriorly, external occipital protuberance and superior nuchal line, laterally on either side of the scalp. It's related to the superior temporal line. And this slide, it shows the layers of the scalp. The word scalp is easily remembered by applying the memory key. S stand for skin, C stand for connective tissue or superficial fascia, A stand for the aponeurosis or epicranial aponeurosis, L stand for the loose alveolar tissue, P stand for the pericranium. You can see that there is a 5 layers of the scalp, and these first 3 layers is adherent to each other and move as a single unit. These 3 layers is moves forward or backward. Hence, these 3 layers is called as a surgical layer of the scalp. Whereas the pericranium is concerned, it is a periosteum covering the outer surface of the skull, and it is easily stripped off except at the sutures. And in this slide we can able to see the sebaceous cyst which is present on the skin of the scalp. The skin is consisting of the hair follicles, sebaceous glands, sweat glands. Damage of the sebaceous gland or blockage of these glands will develop the epidermoid cyst over the scalp. Is here the connective tissue or superficial fascia, that is the second layer of the scalp. The fibrous septa contains numerous vessels and cutaneous nerves, and these cutaneous tissue is consisting of the branches of internal carotid artery and external carotid artery. These branches are easily anastomosis with each other in this layer, and this dense fascia is located at center than its periphery. And in this layer we can able to see the third layer, that is the epicranial aponeurosis. Here, this layer is a thin tendinous sheet that adherent to the occipitofrontalis muscle and freely movable. Anterior to the epicranial aponeurosis presents frontal belly, and posterior to the epicranial aponeurosis presents occipital belly. And loose ulnar tissue, here in this area there is a subaponeurotic space is present. The subaponeurotic space is occupied by the loose ulnar tissue, and injury of the scalp, the hemorrhage or pus may lodge at frontalis muscle area or occipital bony part, or sometimes there is a temporalis muscle part area. Occipitofrontalis muscle, it's a combination of the two bellies, occipital belly and frontal belly. The occipital belly is arise from the lateral one third of the superior nuchal line of the occipital bone, and then here Maillard process, the insertion of the occipital belly is glia aponeurotica, and origin of the frontal belly arises from the glia aponeurotica. The insertion of the frontal belly, superficial fascia of the eyebrows and aponeurosis. The occipitofrontalis muscle blood supply. The frontal belly is supplied by the supraorbital and supratrochlear arteries, which is the branch of the facial artery. The occipital belly is supplied by the occipital artery, which is the branch of the external carotid artery. And regarding the nerve supply is concerned, there is a motor nerve and sensory nerve. Motor nerve is supplied by the temporal branch of the facial nerve piercing to the frontal belly, and posterior auricular nerve that will be piercing to the occipital belly. Regarding the sensory is concerned, the frontal belly is pierced by the supraorbital supratrochlear nerves, which are the branches of ophthalmic division of the trigeminal nerve. And similarly, the occipital belly is piercing by the great auricular nerve and lesser occipital nerve, which is derived from the ventral rami of C2 and C3 cervical segments. And the action of the muscle is, the frontal belly is responsible for the elevation of the eyebrows and transfers wrinkles of the skin over forehead. And the action of the occipital belly to pull the scalp backwards, and these two bellies collectively move forward and backward by alternative contraction of the both bellies. And loose alveolar tissue. So earlier I disclosed that there is the injury of the scalp The hemorrhage or pus may be extended from the cutaneous tissue and loose ulnar tissue, because most of the infection is accumulate at the layer of the loose ulnar tissue and causing the hematoma developed around the eyeball on the affected site and develop the black eye. And this black eye commonly seen in the local fighting and some types of sports like a boxing or games. Dangerous layer of the scalp. Dangerous layer of the scalp is a fourth layer of the scalp, that is the loose alveolar tissue. You can see here, because the emissary vein transmit the infection from subaponeurotic space of the loose connective tissue to the superior sagittal sinus, then it will be extended to the dural venous sinuses. As a result, there is a thrombosis of the cavernous sinus will occur. So hence this layer is called as a dangerous layer of the scalp. And here you can able to see the in this image the emissary vein will closely communicate with the superior ophthalmic vein and supraorbital supratrochlear veins and facial veins, and further at the level of the face it communicate with the deep facial vein to the pterygoid venous plexus. From there emissary vein is communicate with the cavernous sinus. So hence the cavernous sinus is insulted by the loose connective tissue and some facial veins and then supraorbital supratrochlear veins. In this slide, artery supply of the scalp, there is a in front of the auricle there is a 3 arteries, and behind the auricle there is a 2 arteries that will be supplied to the entire scalp. So here the external carotid artery that gives some branches. Here we can able to see the facial artery. The facial artery, it gives 2 branches at the level of the forehead. One is the supraorbital artery, supratrochlear artery, supraorbital artery, superficial temporal artery, posterior auricular artery, then occipital artery. The occipital artery, posterior auricular artery is the branches of the external carotid artery. Then here the terminal part of the superficial temporal artery, it divides the 2 division, frontal part of the superficial temporal artery, then parietal part of the superficial temporal artery. Supratrochlear artery, supraorbital artery, superficial temporal artery, then occipital artery, posterior auricular artery. Nerve supply of the scalp. So here we can able to see the total in front of the auricle, 4 sensory nerves and 1 motor nerve. Behind the auricle there is a 4 sensory nerves and 1 motor nerve. You can see here very clear. This is a 2 motor nerves, temporal branch of the facial nerve and posterior auricular branch of the facial nerve. These are motor and rest of the nerves are sensory in nature. You can see here supratrochlear nerve, supraorbital nerve. These are the two nerves or the branches of the ophthalmic division of the trigeminal nerve and zygomaticotemporal nerve. These are branches of the maxillary division of the trigeminal nerve, auriculotemporal nerve, and this is the branch of the mandibular division of the trigeminal nerve, and 1 motor temporal branch of the facial nerve, and these are the 5 branches are concerned to the in front of the auricle, and behind the auricle 4 sensory and 1 motor. Let us know about this nerves. This is a great auricular nerve, lesser occipital nerve, and greater occipital nerve, third occipital nerve, posterior auricular nerve, that is the motor nerve. And here the posterior auricular nerve, motor nerve is derived from the facial nerve, and rest of the great auricular nerve and lesser occipital nerve is derived from the ventral rami of C2 and C3 cervical segments, and whereas the greater occipital and third occipital nerve is arise from the dorsal division of the C2 C3 segments of the cervical segments. So here you can able to see the 4 sensory in front of the auricle, and behind the auricle there is a 4 sensory and 2 motor. Venous drainage, and here in the venous drainage we can able to see the supratrochlear vein, supraorbital vein, both are united together forming the facial vein, and superficial temporal vein joins with the maxillary vein to form the retromandibular vein within the parotid gland, and posterior auricular vein that will be joins with the posterior division of the retromandibular vein to form the external jugular vein, which is joins into the subclavian vein. The occipital vein that will be drains into the suboccipital venous plexus. This suboccipital venous plexus lies beneath the floor of the suboccipital triangle of the neck region. So most of the veins of the scalp is correspondent to the arteries. So here lymphatic drainage of the scalp, the anterior part of the lymph nodes, the anterior part of the scalp is drains into the superficial parotid lymph nodes. You can see here the arrow mark, the all the anterior part of the scalp, the lymph nodes are drains into the superficial parotid lymph nodes. Then posterior part of the scalp is drains into the posterior auricular nodes and occipital lymph nodes. The clinical importance of the emissary vein. Here we can able to see the subgaleal hematoma, which are the common site of the loose alveolar tissue. Then it will be extended to the periosteum of the skull. Then this condition is common in traumatic birth by applying the technique of venous assisted delivery through the vacuum extraction during the second stage of labor. In this approach, by applying the vacuum extraction, the emissary veins is going to be ruptured and leads to the scalp bleeding at the level of the periosteum of skull. And here the emissary vein is communicate with the superficial fascia and loose connective tissue. Accumulation of the hemorrhage or pus that will be transmitted through the emissary vein to the superior sagittal sinus, from there superior sagittal sinus to the cavernous sinus. The important function of the emissary vein: equalize the blood pressure between the intracranial venous sinuses and extracranial veins. And the important disadvantage of the emissary veins has no walls, so hence the blood is moving from one place to the other place, and infection is quickly, it will spread to the one area to the other areas. So let's say emissary veins are very important for both direction to communicate the intracranial venous sinuses. And these are the Viva voice questions. These questions are very important during the examinations, and don't neglect about these questions. And these questions are helpful for the higher studies also. And one more important things I want to notice to the student, that they should be well aware of the competency based curriculum. And recently the Medical Council of India is introduced, and based on this curriculum you have to focus on these questions. It will be more helpful for your career. And these are the questions, are common questions of the annual examination, and particularly the essay question is claimed for the many of the examinations in the first MBBS students. And apart from that, there is a blood supply, nerve supply. These are also very important. Thank you all of you.